Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We have an exciting topic for you today. We're going to be covering SAP Signavio and how that works together with Cloud ALM. Signavio, of course, is the business process, business transformation capability from SAP, and it does have an integration to Cloud ALM. So we're going to cover this a little bit later, but SAP Signavio's real main job is to analyze, understand, and help you to design your end-to-end business process, including SAP, even non-SAP functions. And then Cloud ALM helps you to manage the implementation and ongoing operations for those functions. And then Signavio can come back at the end of that, analyze the data associated with your business process to suggest further improvements, which creates a continuous improvement cycle. So we're going to be talking about that. Before we go into and I introduce my guest for today, we'll talk a little bit about CoreALM, who we are, what we do, and how we might be able to help you if you have needs in this area. So to start, CoreALM has been in business for about 15 years. The company was founded by our CEO and founder, Labana Patucci, 15 years ago when he decided to leave his position as the ALM practice lead at SAP. And at the time, the reason why he decided to start CoreALM, he, as part of the SAP team working in that ALM space, he sort of surveyed a lot of his customers had needs for services in that space, specifically for application lifecycle management processes, and they were all SAP customers, of course, and really didn't see that there was another player in that space at the time that really served specifically application lifecycle management needs specifically for SAP customers. And so founded CoreALM to do exactly that. Had some immediate interest from customers out of the gate, people that wanted to improve their application lifecycle processes, and continue to serve customers from a services perspective. But it was about 2018 when really he saw the opportunity to take things in a different direction and really solve some needs from many customers by developing software applications that would tie enterprise applications with the services that are available as part of SAP. At the time, it was just SAP Solution Manager. 7.2 was just coming out around that time. And what he observed is that many companies that run SAP, of course, they have many other applications that are in their landscape. And for those other applications, they use different tools to manage those, enterprise-wide tools like Jira or Azure DevOps, ServiceNow to manage changes and ITSM processes. And, so really saw an opportunity because there's a lot of overlap between what those tools do and what you get as part of Solution Manager. Now Cloud ALM is out on the scene, and Cloud ALM is, providing, again, similar functionality to Solution Manager. It's the next step of evolution in SAP ALM tools. And, so really the opportunity was to bridge those SAP ALM tools together with those enterprise-wide tools that people are using to sort of create a more seamless experience. So with those tools and with our services, we've been serving very large customers for many, many years now. And we have, many long-standing customers who've been running our tools in large volumes for a significant period of time, and they continue to be very satisfied with the platform. We cover all aspects of the application lifecycle management process, so regardless of wherever you are in your SAP journey, we can give you advice and support and services associated with that. There's many tools that we do integrate with, as well as that we have experience, and we can help you to understand how these tools fit together in an overall application lifecycle management process. Most of those tools require an enterprise-wide view. But from an SAP perspective, sometimes the needs are a little different. So we have expertise on those SAP ALM tools, Cloud ALM, and Solution Manager for those people that are still on the platform. Of course, Solution Manager, it's been announced, is ending long-term support in 2030, and 2027 is when you're going to have to go into extended maintenance to continue to use it. So, you know, a lot of people are really starting to look at Cloud ALM, which we're going to cover today. And then just overall, what is the overall SAP landscape of how those tools work and integrate with your enterprise tools. So we get asked those types of questions a lot. What we see is that many people are sort of standardizing on, you know, for project type work, they're using Jira or Azure DevOps in some way. Those are the kind of most common tools that we see on the implementation project side. And that's because many organizations are adopting Agile or DevOps processes for continuous improvement and for, you know, trying to keep a faster pace for delivering new features. The challenges with SAP, sometimes that can be very challenging to keep up. On the change management side, many people use, you know, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, or even Jira, but ServiceNow is probably the most common application that we see as, you know, for change management, to make sure that you have a governance process so that the changes that you're releasing to production are, you know, very carefully managed and you don't create issues or disruptions. So what we hear from many of our customers is, I'm using Jira for projects, but I can't use it with SAP, or I'm using ServiceNow for change management, but it doesn't work for SAP. And so SAP sort of became this island, or if they decide to use both tools, then what happens is you end up with obviously decentralized access. People are accessing, you know, require access to both different tools to do different things. That leads to inconsistencies in data. It leads to duplication of effort. And in some cases, you know, the lack of ability to automate a process, which, you know, more and more people are really trying to optimize their process by bringing in automations. And we have some really interesting use cases where, you know, based on where you are in the process, things are automatically, you know, getting reviewed for, you know, is this change going to impact my existing process? Can I execute testing automatically? And those types of automations are just, you know, impossible if you have a disconnected manual process. So what we've done is we've introduced some connectors, you know, in the past we've had connectors to Solution Manager. Many people are still using those. If you're using Charm, if you're using Focus Build to run projects, still less likely, but certainly a lot of people still using Charm for change management. We have connectors for those tools to bridge them into ServiceNow or Azure DevOps, Jira. Those are helpful. We also have people using our Cloud ALM connectors today, which, you know, allows you to connect Jira or Azure DevOps with Cloud ALM on the back end, so that you can run your projects and actually reduce or, you know, eliminate the overlap. It's a bi-directional interface between your front end application, where you're doing your application planning. Maybe you have agile teams using Jira or Azure DevOps, and they want to be able to reflect their status directly into Cloud ALM and vice versa, and we can cover that need. We also have, for those people that don't want to use SAP Cloud ALM to manage their transports, but they'd like to get off of Charm because Charm is coming to end of life, but they don't see the capabilities that they require for change management in Cloud ALM yet. So we provide an additional option where we take the functionality, similar capabilities to what you have in Charm for all of your SAP transport management, and we embed those capabilities directly into the application of your choice. ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, Jira. So again, you can take the best sort of practice transport management capabilities from SAP and add those into your existing change management solution without, you know, having to require an additional application to manage changes. So this is exciting. We'd be happy to talk to you about how we can get you started on a trial if you're interested in that. So we can give you information on how to reach out, but just go to our website. There's a talk to an expert button in the top right corner. If you're interested in any of these things, we can walk you through it. And last but not least, I'll just share with you sort of a view for how you can cover your implementation and your operations across, whether you're using Solution Manager, Cloud ALM, or if you want to go the direct route of managing transports directly from Jira, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow. We can talk to you about that. So that's what we do in a nutshell. I'm going to introduce my guest for today, Errol Sika. Errol, welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And so, Errol, I think you're going to walk us through a little bit how Signavio works to start, and then you're going to take us through how it integrates with Cloud ALM. I'm really excited to see this. I get asked these types of questions quite a lot. And so, yeah, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, of course. Just if you can confirm, Steve, that you can hear me okay and you can see my screen.
You're all set to go.
All right, awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So, right, the integration between Signavio and Cloud ALM. So we'll go ahead and jump into. We'll just go ahead and jump to the topic. But before, just a brief agenda as far as what to expect from today's session. So I'll start off with an introduction and overview of Signavio. Inform everyone what Signavio is and what the capabilities, and then we'll talk about the integration that SAP and Cloud ALM have. This is an SAP-owned integration, by the way, so it's coming directly from SAP. And then, of course, we'll talk about Cloud ALM, how you can utilize Cloud ALM from an implementation testing perspective, live system demo, of course, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. And the goal of the webinar, show you how you can utilize both tools for your implementation projects. So starting off with Signavio, so I'll give you an overview and introduction. I know this slide looks a little bit busy, but we'll absorb it in chunks, as they say. So what you're looking at, it's a brief overview of the SAP Signavio modules that you're looking at here, beginning with the collaboration hub at the very middle that you have here. This is where you would involve your entire organization in the transformation journey, as you move in an environment that promotes collaboration between all of those actors that are involved. Then you'd follow that up with the process insight module. This is where you perform your evaluation of your SAP ERP, and you generate a list of recommendation for these processes that you are looking at. Then, as you move on to the process intelligence, this is where you're analyzing the processes and the variations through various algorithms and techniques through the process mining. Then, as you are moving to the process manager, and this is where we'll focus in the most. The process manager allows you to model. You can analyze and compare your processes using the BPMN notation. This is a primary focus from the Signavios, as I mentioned, as part of today's webinar. When undergoing an S4 transformation, many organizations look to define their processes using the SAP best practices. So these are the SAP best practices that arrange the process module based on the experiences that SAP has had helping customers. So you're not beginning from scratch. You're using that foundation that SAP already has to manage, improve, and execute your business processes. These SAP best practices, and then of course this is where you can actually find the diagrams that we are working towards, and then so once you're located the diagrams, you bring those in, then you can use the quick model to bring all of those diagrams in. And then, if you want to make any alterations or any changes, you can use the process editor and create various BPMN notation diagrams. From a journey modular perspective, this is where you identify how real people actually interact with the organization. And then from a process governance, this is where, this is related to the repositories. So this is how organizations govern, and also how they manage their process repositories. And last but not least, we have the process automation, where it provides the workflows and the lower no-code application to reduce the number of your manual activities and your manual effort. Now, now it all starts in the business transformation infinity loop that you see here. This what it does is it describes the approach of the process management loop that runs continuously without stopping. Beginning in the very beginning with the discover phase, this is where you are actually recognize that you are caught in an infinity loop. There's a pattern of interaction that keeps happening and that just keeps repeating itself. So, once you've discovered, then the next step would be the analyze phase. This is where you are using various analytical techniques to identify patterns, trends, or insights for continuous improvement. Then once you're moving on from the analyze to the design, this is where you are designing your 2B solution in an ALM tool. Ideally, the way we have it set up for today is, you're designing in Signavio, but then you're moving all of those changes to the standard integration to Cloud ALM. So as you are designing those 2B processes and you are gathering data to identify the root causes and refining each cycle of the solution and deepening the understanding of where the problem is. Then once you're moving from design to the implementation to where we are actually building what was designed and earlier for the solution. And then as those changes are built, then they are deployed to the operations, and as we are actively running in the real environment, here. And the space does focus on the monitoring, the managing, maintaining the infinite loop that we have here, and then doing the actual operations. And then all of this happens among the people, applications, data, and process dimensions as well. So in the context of the integration between both tools, between Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM, when customers define their business and architecture strategy, such as a value change in the Signavio that we have, they need to get to the executable, to the execute process and to run the solution. So to be able to get to that, to move from one strategy to the next, this is where we have defined the methodology here that you see in the middle, and this is a very high level definition of methodology. As I will, that you see here, there's another slide that's coming, and we will take a deep dive into what that methodology looks like, and then in the context of the Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM. Continue with a deep dive into the methodology. I know this slide looks a little bit busy. There's a lot to digest and break down, but so we'll move on from left to right. So just kind of setting the scene there. But the idea and the overall idea here is that in this methodology, this is where you are designing, you're implementing your processes, and you are continually looking for improvements. Now, looking at the very beginning with the analyze phase, so we would use Signavio to analyze the processes, to understand the internal KPIs and in the industry benchmarks, and identify any potential bottlenecks that there might be. Then, of course, then we would have the SAP. We would bring over the SAP best practices, concepts that are coming from Signavio that will help you enhance the processes based on your fit to standard workshops, and then of course, and the recommendations in the process insight to help you improve your current system. In the design, this is where you are designing your 2B processes from scratch, or ideally you'll be leveraging those SAP best practices that come standard from SAP. And and of course you would then, as you are transitioning, this is where you actually would start capturing all of those requirements. So as you are going from design, from the design to the capturing those business requirements, this is where we are doing the handover from the Signavio going into Cloud ALM. We'll continue with the LLM process to where we are capturing requirements and the business needs based on the fit or gap requirements. Then we're breaking down those requirements into user stories. Then we're developing features and transports. And then of course we're organizing projects via project tasks. There's also we're building the solution, and of course we are testing the solution as well. So testing the solution as well, and whether there would be some type of functional testing or some type of user acceptance testing as well. And then, of course, once everything is tested, once testing is completed and stakeholders have agreed to the results and changes, then you'd have all of the changes that are pushed into the production or in the live system here. Then those processes are published back into SAP Signavio, and documentation is provided to the end users and as part of your solution training as well. And then there's also, just to call out here, there's also integration between LeanIX, and there's also integration with Presentis for test system automation and execution. And of course, once everything, once you have gone through the first round of everything from left to right, then the idea is that you keep analyzing. So we begin the process again. You keep analyzing and looking for process improvements in that regards. So we're continuing with the infinity loop. Now, from an integration perspective, so SAP provides a standard integration that's SAP-owned connectivity between Signavio and Cloud ALM, where you can hand over your process information. As you can see here, you can hand over your process information from one tool to the other as a baseline, for creating your management or your requirement management, whether you're creating test cases, documentation, or other activities during your ALM lifecycle. You can synchronize the latest updates and revisions of the models from SAP Signavio Collaboration Hub that will allow you to navigate back into Cloud ALM. And one of the very important things to remember here is that Signavio is the leading tool, and for all of the process information, meaning that all the changes, all the update processes need to start over in Signavio and then hand them over to Cloud ALM. From a navigation perspective, it is bidirectional, meaning that if you click on the Cloud, there's a Cloud ALM feature, and I'll show you this in the demo as well. There's an icon of Cloud ALM in Signavio. Once you click that, it'll take it directly to Cloud ALM, and vice versa. So the navigation is bidirectional, but the important big call out here is that Signavio is the leading tool, so everything needs to start over in Signavio. We'll sync everything, and then of course then you can continue with the rest of the ALM, the rest of the ALM lifecycle with going through with using Cloud ALM. Now, from a mapping perspective, between SAP and Signavio, the beginning at the left with Signavio. At the very top, we have the process manager. That's followed by the folder structure, the diagram, the process diagram, and the lowest level we have the tasks. And from a Cloud ALM perspective, we have it begins with the custom processes in the process authoring app. Then that's followed by the solution process diagrams that you can see here. And then there's additional flows. And then at the lowest level, we have the solution activity, the My Tasks, which actually come over from Signavio. So through that integration, and then at the lowest level, we actually have we have the tasks, but also from a solution activities task, all the tasks are stored in the activity library. And then so there's mapping here that you can see. So from Signavio, the My Diagram becomes part of the My Solution diagram, and also it cascades down to the solution process flow, and then of course the tasks that are one-to-one mapping that So those tasks from Signavio will provide the tasks to Cloud ALM. The big call out here is that from the mapping perspective, integration support, one BPMN diagram in Signavio becomes exactly one solution process flow in SAP Cloud ALM. Now, as we are transitioning as we're continuing with design, and we've captured the process diagrams, we of course would move them over. We use the integration. We want to leverage Cloud ALM because it does provide features as far as managing the implementation. So that's where we'll be heading out next. But for anyone not familiar with Cloud ALM, just a brief overview. It is a new ALM tool, as Steve mentioned as well, emerging from SAP. The plan is to replace Solution Manager for both implementation and operational purposes. So if you're going in an implementation or a maintenance project, you can use the tool for your design, build, test, and deployment. And then from an operation perspective, you can use it to detect for your custom or analytical APIs. To detect your problems, analyze root causes, correct those problems, and automate those performances. So just a brief overview, and then from a Cloud ALM perspective, it does offer project management capabilities that align with your project phases, where you can manage your projects, where your teams can collaborate and track those progresses and their implementation. You can actually create projects as well that align with Signavio, where you can define timelines, milestones, and assign teams and roles as well. You can monitor as far as how the tasks react from an overall project perspective. And as you are beginning to transition from your design and you're starting to think about your build, Cloud ALM provides help with running your agile implementation from an end-to-end project as well. So this is where you can manage your project activities, directly in Cloud ALM via requirements, tasks, features that contain transports, and we'll go into a little bit deeper dive on this as well. And then another benefit of Cloud ALM for build is that it allows you to break down those requirements into even more additional user stories, tasks, so you can digest your build at a more granular level. Now, Cloud ALM does offer integration with third-party tool, and I know that going back to what Steve had mentioned as well, so these are standard integrations with standard APIs. So if you have non-SAP teams you have SAP and non-SAP teams that are using other tools to manage their work. We can provide the one-to-one integration to where you'd have, for example, whether you're using Jira or Azure DevOps, you'd have this one-to-one integration between your requirements and your epics, your tasks and your user stories, defects and bugs. So you have a holistic 360 view of the project, and all of these teams, whether it being SAP or non-SAP work. And then, of course, CoreALM does offer these specific and other connectors that will help you with your integrations and project delivery. And then from an implementation perspective as well, so Cloud ALM does offer standard out-of-the-box reporting that provides an overall view of where you are. So of course, if you depending on where you're a program manager, or a Scrum Master, depending on the level of task or that you're tracking, Cloud ALM does offer standard out-of-the-box reporting as well, with filters, so you can see exactly what's most important to you and looking at the data that you'd be interested in. Another important benefit in Cloud ALM is the transport management. So we can manage build and also the changes we push into the next landscape. The features feature in Cloud ALM actually. So think of it as a container that stores all of your transports and manages our changes of those transports as well. So as you're going through the system gates, so as you're going through build and you're moving towards testing, then you want to continue, to track those changes, and also as we are going through the defects that might be captured during testing. Now, from a testing perspective, Cloud ALM does offer testing capabilities. So as you are moving from builds to testing, where you want to ensure that quality and test things that we have built. This is where you can prepare and execute your manual and automated test cases. So you have the test preparation app where you can manage and prepare your test cases. In the test plan app is where you can actually take those test cases that you've prepared. You can put a plan together. And then, of course, on the test execution part, this is where you can track the progress of your test execution, so you can create and manage defects as well. And then, of course, there's integrations that you can see down here, integration tools, whether it was Tricentis or other third-party tools that provide standard test cases to be synchronized and executed in Cloud ALM as well. Now, what that means, basically what it means is full traceability from the very beginning, whether, we're leveraging several tools here from the very beginning, where we are designing the processes, capturing those we capture those in Signavio, then we're moving them over to Cloud ALM, and then, of course, then as we're going through the full requirements to deployment phase as well. So it's a holistic approach by integrating all of your business processes, where we have those requirement user stories and features with test orchestration as well. So, and because of the integration, you can plan your testing. You can automate all of the testing types and all, etc. So, from a testing perspective, would begin with some type of functional testing, where you're testing your user stories or tasks. Then, as you progress through build, you want to test those requirements with some type of acceptance testing as you're engaging business. And then, we'd bring it all together with integration testing, where you'd have several of your processes tested all in at once. And then, of course, there with the integration as well. And then we can track those changes and defects using features as well. You'd bring it now that actually that we have built, and now so we have tested, and if all of everything, we get all the desired results, then we move the changes to the production, and this is where we would push those changes back of those processes, the updates that we made to the processes, back to Signavio, as that is a tool where we'll store our processes. Last but not least, the Cloud ALM does offer the business hierarchy nodes. Think of it as your standard, if you're familiar with SAP, your typical BPH, your tree structure that you have, where you're breaking down complex processes into smaller, more observable chunks. As Signavio does offer that as well, but this is the idea is that we want full traceability, and Cloud ALM does give you this option as well, to where you have on the left-hand side you have the tree structure of all the processes, and then on the right-hand side you have all of the elements that have been delivered from the initial design all the way through testing, and then as you are building out your libraries as well. So now that we've gone through with the PowerPoint portion of it, and then you have an understanding of an initial understanding of Signavio and Cloud ALM. We'll jump into the demo portion of it. So what you can actually see here, this is when you log into Signavio, this is the first view that you get. Home view screen, you can actually see here, and you arrive directly into the process collaboration, into the collaboration hub. So this is the first view. Think of this as your source of truth, where everything will reside in the collaboration hub. You can, so looking at the, well, actually we'll start off on the very top here. So you're looking at the 9 dots that we have here. You can actually see there are several modules that I actually called out earlier in the demo, and we'll talk about the process manager in a little bit. But the idea is the collaboration hub is where everything resides. And on the left-hand side, you can actually see that there's additional features here as well. Looking at the tiles that we have here, there's, they can be customizable.
Maybe I'll just jump in quickly.
So ones as your favorite.
Thanks, Harold. So just as you're going into this, and just because you covered a lot of material, just want to make sure everybody's kind of level set on the same page. So Signavio has a number of different features. It is where you're going to analyze the content of your SAP system. If you have an existing SAP system live and running, then you can extract information from it, and it can help you to give you insights as to how and where you can improve your processes. So that's kind of like process mining type capabilities. Then you can go to the next step, which is really designing those processes. Then you're going to hand it over to Cloud ALM, where you're going to go through all of those steps of the implementation that Harold talked about. And then, of course, once you're live with those changes, it goes back to the beginning again. You can continue to further analyze it and go back through the loop. So we're starting kind of now on this business transformation side. We're not going to talk about process mining capabilities so much as part of the Signavio. We'll talk more about the process definition, and then we'll take those processes into Cloud ALM and go from there. Do I have that? Is that a fair outline, Harold?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. Exactly. Yep. So yeah, collaboration hub is where everything resides. Now, we want, if we're going through an implementation, we want to use what SAP already has provided. So this is where we can do that. We can create a process using Quick Model or Jumpstart our processes. So this is one way we can do them. For our demo processes, of course, I've already pre-selected some ahead of time. But the idea is that we would have one of the processes here. So as you can see, there's a level 1 diagram flows is here. We can actually, as I mentioned, Signavio does offer the BPH hierarchy as well. So if I can see that there's a sub process that's here. So if I click in here, and what it does, and it actually takes me to the next level. So as you can see here, there's level 2. There's revisions, meaning that I've made some sort of update to the process that Signavio has provided ahead of time. So now that we are, we're digging deeper, we're getting more granular. On the left-hand side here is where you can actually create the BPH hierarchy. So as you can see, there's a level 3 here and a level 4. So this is one way we can get to it, or we can click on the other sub-process, and then it will actually keep drilling down and take deeper into the processes. So whether you are delivering everything at a level 3, or even there's additional flows at level 4, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But the idea is that it's a collaborative tool. We can add comments as far as from what's happening. We can take it does offer activities definition. There's all of these attributes as well that are brought along with this. So as we're going through Fit to Standard workshops, we are digging deeper. We're making changes to our diagram flows as we're capturing what the to-be processes will look like. So as you can see here, there's a step that I've added. So I've already made one change to the diagram here. So now that there's a latest revision that has been posted, and then the idea. So I've made a change, and you can actually see at the very top here. Now you can see what the process hierarchy looks like, the tree structure. So from all of the levels that we have here, and then there's a prompt here that says the latest published revision has been published, meaning that in here I have made changes, I've published them. So then if I wanted to move this diagram to saying this is the diagram, we've captured all of the steps, what the future to be process looks like, then I want to push those changes to Cloud ALM. This is how I can do that through the standard integration. We just sync the changes, you get the prompt, confirm and sync, and then sync was successful. So that means that the changes now have gone to Cloud ALM. What I want to do is close, and then one way that you can actually know that if you get the prompt here, the SAP Cloud ALM, so this is where the actual link is. So this is one way for you to check or to confirm that the changes have been moved. So if I am to click into Cloud ALM, click on the button, it should take me directly to Cloud ALM. And now, as we are loading the process authoring part of it, this is what the diagram looks like in Cloud ALM. So we've taken the process, we made updates. Now we're pushing those changes to Cloud ALM as we're preparing for closing up our design phase and moving on to build. So this is what that actually looks like. If on the link here, this is a link to Signavio. So if I was to click here, it should take me back to Signavio, my diagram. To Signavio. So as you can see, we're back in Collaboration Hub, and I have the diagram that I have here. And then we can tie it together in the Cloud ALM as well. So for the full traceability that I showed on the slides, we have a hierarchy that's also built in Cloud ALM. So if you want to leverage that, that's another option as well, where you can assign the diagram to hierarchy node. And then, of course, as you are building all of those elements as part of the process, then this is where you can actually do that. Now that I have my diagram flows in Cloud ALM, and as we're going through the workshops, then we can leverage Cloud ALM to capture our requirements. So this is how we can actually do that. We can capture those requirements, those needs from business, and then we can further break down those requirements into user stories in Cloud ALM. So if there's an integration, there's several different teams that are involved, we can break those down to user stories. And of course, at a task level as well, at a more granular levels where we're absorbing the work in smaller chunks, smaller iterations, whether it be some type of sprints that we're delivering that work. So as you are transitioning from the design phase, and you are beginning your build, there's a requirements up here. So you've captured all the requirements. This is and you may have some type of PI planning that you need to do as far as capturing those requirements and assigning them into which specific sprint that may go. This is a standard view, board view in table view in Cloud ALM, but you can actually use the Gantt chart view where we can actually link dependencies, so we know what specific requirements we need to deliver first before moving on to the next one. And then also, you may have, as you are capturing these requirements, you also may have non-SAP teams that you may share these requirements with. So you can actually, as you are tracking these requirements via, you can send owners, manage them via statuses as well. And there's additional information here as well that we can track the requirements. But this is where the link to the third-party tools is as well. So these are open APIs that the SAP has. And then, of course, there's connectors that CoreALM that we have. So an example here would be direct integration with Azure DevOps. So we have the requirement, and then this in Cloud ALM. So we have it for the SAP teams, but there might be also the non-SAP teams and visibility. So they can take this requirement and they can track their work against it as well. So visibility from both ends, SAP and non-SAP teams. So we bring everything together where you're reducing effort, and there's no need for shared Excels or any of these other tools that just seem to spring up at the last minute. One is from project tracking perspective. And then, of course, there's then as you are transitioning from your PI planning, of course, you might, you're starting sprints, you might need to do some type of sprint planning. You can use the tasks, project tasks, to absorb work at a more granular level. So you can use those tasks as well. We can assign dates, timelines. There's a Gantt chart view as well, but there's also a Kanban view. So you can use this for your sprint, for your daily sprint calls as well. So, and you can just drag and drop these tasks. So you can run all of you can use that for your sprint ceremonies. And then as we continue, we're just at this point, we are just going to continue down the features from Cloud ALM as we are transitioning, as we're continuing with the build, and then we'll jump into testing as well. So these are the features. This is the hub, the container hub that stores all of your transports. We can assign it to a specific release. This is where we can go ahead and create transports, so we can for us to manage our changes. And then from a managing changes perspective, we can make edits to the features, but this is actually, we can go ahead and we can track it via statuses. So if I just click on the status here, I'll get the prompt saying, advising me that my changes have been approved, and then we're good on to move on to the next stage gate. And then of course, so we keep track of what we're building, so of our requirements. Documents, you can use the documents feature for whatever type of documents you want, whether it's some type of KDD or BPD. And then of course, as we are transitioning from build to test, Cloud ALM does offer both manual and automated testing. Automated testing is I had those open ahead of time, but I'll just show you. I'll just show you what it looks like. So of automated testing, this link which I sent us for test automation. So what that will look like. So if you're doing the automated testing, so there's a link here that's provided as well. And then from a manual testing perspective, we just under the test preparation app, this is where you'd come in. You can create test cases from scratch directly, or using those diagram flows the structure of the diagram flows that came from Signavio, or we can upload test cases as well. So, and then of course we can assign owners, timelines, and etc. But the idea is that then we can assign statuses as well. But the idea is that we can actually use the structure that came in from those accelerators that came in from Signavio, so that we don't have to start from scratch. We know what contact we need to be tested, and then of course we can make changes to it and assign requirements, use the stories. We can we can reference it back to the process hierarchy, which will bring us all of the traceability that we need. Then once we have created those test cases, then of course we want to assign them to a test plan, so we know what exactly we are testing. So this is what they'll look like. We can track it on status and owners as well. And then of course, now that I've taken those test cases, assign them to a test plan, then the next thing is that we want to execute. We want to execute those test cases. So we want to test, making sure that what we've built looks correct. We get the desired outcome. So this is where we can actually go ahead and do that. And I'll just, if I click on resume, we get the standard title. There's instructions that are added. So title from a step perspective, and then instructions, and then expected result that we may need for testing. And once we come here, then there's a pre-selected statuses from a testing perspective. If everything looks good, of course, pass. If we don't get the expected result, then something failed. We can add a note to it, and then also we do have a prompt here where we can create defects. So we can tie this test case, this defect to the test case, and as we continue down, and then of course, and then we can add notes and etc. All of that information as well. And as we continue down with our apps here in Cloud ALM, then Then if you're doing some type of defect triage where you may have various defects that you are capturing as part of your testing, then this is where we can actually manage those. We can assign priority. We can end-based teams and owners. We can add notes as well, so we know where we are from a defect perspective. So very helpful view when you're doing some type of defect triage. And then bringing everything together in the process hierarchy assignment that I showed earlier in Cloud ALM. As anyone familiar with the process hierarchy in whether it's Focus Solution Manager, the idea is the same. You have a tree structure here. You're getting more granular, breaking down those processes. So we have the tree structure here on the left-hand side, and then all of the elements that we are delivering as part of our entire build. And then, of course, once we have, so you have this traceability here, and then once we have build has been completed, those changes are pushed to production live, and then going back to what we already mentioned and what Steve iterated as well, is that we'll take all of these processes, we'll move them back to Signavio. We'll restore them, and then of course we'll go through the module that we showed earlier. Where you're looking for continuous improvement, analyzing, and all of those modules. That is all that I had for today's webinar. I think we're good to open up the session, Steve, for questions.
Okay. Excellent. We do have some questions in the queue. Thank you very much. We covered a lot of ground today. So if you have questions about any part of it, so obviously today was a bit of a fast-paced survey of all the Cloud ALM capabilities, but we kind of kicked things off with that Signavio view. The first question is, I think maybe a little bit overwhelming. All I can say is, wow, I know there is definitely a lot of capability there. So if you're overwhelmed, the biggest advice I can give you is really just go one step at a time. The next question is, does CoreALM provide training in Signavio? I would say we don't generally call it training because training would be more teaching you how to use the tool. What we've found is that many times every customer has a slightly different adaptation of how they want to embed the tools in their process. And depending on the level of maturity that you're currently at, we can usually recommend what's the next step in your evolution for how you can take advantage of some of these capabilities. If you haven't figured it out yet, and probably the reason why you're asking those questions is because this is obviously a very strategic tool. Signavio gives you a lot of capabilities to enhance the value of your business, transformations and the business delivery from SAP. So it's really, really important as an application. And I would say that will continue to expand as, AI becomes a more evolved capability already. Right now, I've seen some really interesting use cases for AI, but of course, AI feeds on data. And so it can only give you insights based on availability of contextual information that is important. And if you think about it, Signavio has a lot of information about your business process, if you feed it that information, of course. And then based on best practices, you can get kind of knowledge of the best practices that are in use outside of your organization and figure out where, how to prioritize what you want to change within your organization. And so Signavio gives you those capabilities. AI is going to continue to, transform the landscape. And then, of course, you have to get to implementation, and that's where Cloud ALM kicks in. So I wouldn't say so much training, that we would offer, but we can give you strategic advice on how to use these tools to better your kind of overall delivery, to improve speed, to make sure you're giving more business value. And ultimately, what will happen is you'll define, okay, these are the goals that I want to set for how these tools will help us to change the way that we do things. And then based on that, it will result in potentially a change or an implementation or an integration that we can help you to lead if you want our help. And through that, we can do knowledge transfer. So ultimately, the final goal would be training, but it usually comes with a little bit more sort of advisory support and just sort of advice upfront, and sometimes integration of tools. That could be a small project as well. So that's what I would say in terms of that. If you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer them here. There's a few more left. So what is the process to do the installation? I think you said it's a standard integration from SAP to do the integration from Signavio to Cloud ALM. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. A standard. It is an SAP owned connectivity. So yeah, it's not too difficult.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And so for the Cloud ALM processes, I guess, like you said, it's a one-way integration. And so what that means is, it's best if you can start and really just Signavio needs to be that leading tool for all of your process definitions. So it's best if you, before you start creating a whole bunch of processes in Cloud ALM, if you plan to use Signavio, you start in Signavio and then bring all that data through from Signavio into Cloud ALM. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So Signavio is a leading tool. You bring all of these SAP experiences, all those jump starters that SAP provides, you bring those over into Cloud ALM. Yes, and then from there, Cloud ALM, you can go through the phases. So, finish up design, build, testing, and close that loop by moving all those updates back into Signavio.
Okay, great. And the last question I have on the list right now is just, we talked earlier about the ADO integration. So the question is, how does the ADO integration affect what you're doing in Signavio? I think this will be a bit of a nuanced discussion because generally our tool integrates with Cloud ALM, I think, if I'm correct, Earls, right?
Yes.
And so the process definition will continue in Signavio. And then once you've decided that you're going to move things through on the to the implementation phase, that's generally where the integration kicks in, and then you could start using ADO or Jira for that matter to manage the implementation of those things. Then it comes back out to Signavio for analysis. Is that fair?
Yeah, correct. So those third-party tools will complement or provide visibility for your build. So as you're capturing requirements and tasks or even bugs at a testing level, there's bi-directional flow as well, right? What we've learned and what we've seen in several projects is that, there's non-SAP teams that already are using Jira. They have everything, they have the system stood up. They feel comfortable. You don't want them, to bring Cloud ALM in and teach everyone from the very beginning. It takes time, effort, all of cost as well. So the easiest way to do that, bi-directional, SAP teams, you want to work in, we're tracking our work through SAP, right? Because you have changes and features that you're managing there, but also for non-SAP work, just that bi-directional, everything flows over into, example, Jira. They can track their work. They can add user stories. All of that, all the work can be tracked on their side as well.
Yeah. And we do have customers that, because they're using, let's say, Azure DevOps or Jira to manage kind of even early changes in the process, which sometimes affect the business process. which is kind of tied to what's happening in Signavio. So we do have customers that have additional states for those objects. So maybe they have requirements or features in ADO with states that kind of precede the step of getting it into Cloud ALM, so that before, you know, they can go through some early approvals. You talked about governance as part of Signavio or process design. So those things can happen as well, even before you get to Cloud ALM. But then once you get to Cloud ALM, that's when the integration kicks in. So those things are possible. So to make sure that your process sort of spans across all of those systems and kind of integrates. Okay, great. Well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground. Hopefully we've piqued your interest. Hopefully you learned a little something. Thanks for joining us live today. If you're watching the recording, thanks for reaching all the way to the end. If you have any further questions that you'd like to discuss with us directly, or if you'd like a personalized demonstration, the best would be to go to our website, and in the website, in the top right corner of your screen, you should see the Talk to an Expert button. If you click on that, it'll bring you to a form. You can input your information, and then we can reach back out and get back in touch with you. I just put up on the screen a link to all of our webinars. This is our webinar page where you can see upcoming topics. So please do visit that page, and you will see additional topics for future discussion, and you can learn more. Thanks again, Errol, for joining us today. Thank you all for watching this recording, and hope you have a great rest of your day.